menora, he should keep the flame that he is using to light these separate wicks. He should keep it attached to the wick until the wick catches to the extent that the flame goes by itself. The flame rises by itself. So the Meforshim point out that this is not just a matter of the menorah per se. The menorah represents something. All of the kelim in the Mishkan represented something. They were not just the artifact itself. So the menorah, most Meforshim say, represented the Torah just like the Aron, except the Aron was invisible. The Aron was behind the paroches. It was in the Kodshei Kodeshim. Well, nobody ever went into the Kodshei Kodeshim. The Kohen Gadol went once a year. But the Jewish people never saw the Aron. So what for them became the symbol of the Torah? So that was the menorah. Torah or the Torah is likened to light. It's a flame. Shalheves Koah, it's the flame of God. So therefore the menorah represented Torah. So the Meforshim say that that is the message that's involved here, that when one teaches children, students, anyone, Torah, you have to keep the light of the Torah. The purpose is that the student, the child, should be able to accomplish it on his or her own. The shalheves, the flame, should be lit by itself, and it would no longer need the flame from the outside to make it be lit. So that's an idea in education. In the yeshiva world, the Rabbeim always said that the goal was to have the student be able to study by oneself, without the teacher. And in fact, that became the hallmark of reaching a certain level, let's say in the study of Talmud, is that the person could study by oneself, study on one's own without the aid of others. So that's the symbol that's involved here. And we want that for our children as well. You know, there's a case I saw in the United States where there's a 30-year-old man that's being evicted from his parents' house by a court order. And for 8 years they've been trying to get him out, and he's not going anywhere. The idea with children is to make them less dependent, not more dependent. To be able to let go. And we see that if you want to teach a child to walk, for instance. So you can't hold on all the time. You have to allow the child to trip, will fall, but the child will learn how to walk. You want him to ride a bicycle, right? Yeah. So you have to let go once in a while. So that's true in every area of life. That the elder generation, so to speak, has to be able to let go. So that the flame will come by itself and be able to be lit by itself. Now the menorah was a complicated idea. It says, El mul pnei menorah yoiru shiva saneros. The menorah was a 7-branched candelabra. And the menorah was made from gold, So the menorah itself was miraculous, as we had discussed before, when we discussed it in Parshas Tetzaveh, that Moshe didn't know how to create it, but Bezalel didn't know, because he had to make it from one piece of gold. How could you make something so gigantic from one piece of gold? So they took gold and threw it in the fire, and miraculously the menorah appeared. So the existence of the menorah itself was miraculous. Now, in the time of the first Beis HaMikdash, when Shlomo HaMelech built the first temple, so the Tanakh teaches us that he built 10 menorahs in the Azorah, so that the entire Azorah was covered with candelabras. What those candelabras looked like, how they were lit, the Tanakh doesn't explain to us, and the Gemara is also silent about it. But that was a question: how was he able to do that? When the Torah didn't mention it. So apparently, artifacts could be added to the temple to glorify it, to make it even greater and more attractive, more beautiful. So he had all of these menorahs. Now, the Gemara teaches us that when the Kohen was meitiv esaneros, he had to clean out the wick from yesterday, so to speak, rinse out the cup before he poured in the new oil and put in the new wick. So he was meitiv 5 neros, and then he did other work in between. Then he came back and he was meitiv the other 2 neros. Now, why was he not meitiv all 7 neros consecutively? So that's a discussion amongst all the commentators. So, al pi Kabbalah, each of the neros represented a different sphere sphere of spirituality, so to speak. After 5 was one era was done, and the last 2 were in a different sphere. But the idea was, the Gemara points out, there was something called the ner amarovi, the Western candle. The Western candle, according to tradition, at least in the Bayis Rishon, never went out. It was the eternal light. So there was a fire on the Mizbeach that was an eternal light. The Gemara says it was like a crouched lion. The fire, that's what the fire looked like. And one of the miracles when the Leviim transported the Mishkan was that they covered the Mizbeach with a cloth, with the big desrod, while the fire was still going. And the begodim didn't burn. And the fire was never extinguished. But the other fire that was never extinguished was the ner marovi, was the Western candle on the menorah. Now, what was the Western candle? Which candle was the Western candle? So there are different opinions. Tosfos brings different opinions. One opinion was that it's the first candle to the west. The menorah was on the south part of the Azorah, so it ran east to west. So the first candle past the middle candle was the ner marovi, the Western candle. Another interpretation was that it was the extreme westernmost candle, the one that was farthest to the west. And there's a third opinion that it was the next to the last candle to the west. So we have somehow lost in the exercise of the generations. We've lost the tradition exactly which candle served as the Ner Marovi. But the Ner Marovi was the candle that burned all the time. And mimeno, from that Ner Marovi, the Kohen was able to light the other 6 candles in the morning, and this candle remained permanently lit.
It's a miracle, I never went out.
It certainly is a miracle. Now, others say to minimize the miracle, because miracles are at one and the same time limited and limitless. So others say that it wasn't a miracle, they just had a larger amount of fuel, of oil, that enabled it to burn 24 hours, and that it just was not put out at night. The other ones were put out, snuffed out. This one was not put out, so it burned through the entire night till the morning, and when they put in the new oil in the morning, so then the other ones were lit from it, and then they added to the Ner Marovi itself so that it would continue to burn. The original menorah that Moshe made disappeared from us, together with the Aron Kodesh, etc. The Gemara says that the Novi Yirmiyahu, during the reign of King Yoshiyahu, knowing in advance that the Bavlayim were going to destroy the temple, so the artifacts of the temple were taken away and buried somewhere. But we have no idea where. And they have disappeared from us. When the Jews came back for the second temple, they had to rebuild all of the kelim. So they had to create a new Aron, and they had to create a new menorah. What did the menorah look like in the second temple? So that we have, again, different opinions, different traditions. The Rambam says that the menorah in Second Temple times were at 30-degree angles. Others say that the menorah was the way the menorah for the state of Israel is, that it went straight out and then up, 90-degree angle. And others say that the menorah had curved. On the Arch of Titus, the menorah that is portrayed there by the Romans has curved candelabra. Now, whether that's the menorah or not, or whether that's just a menorah, though from the portraiture itself on the arch, it looks like the Romans meant that was the menorah. Because they have a picture of the Aron too. They have a picture of the Chatzotzos.
I thought it was underneath the base of English.
Now the second temple. First temple is buried somewhere. The second temple was taken away. And where it is and what happened to it, so all sorts of legends arose. You know, that the church has it, that it's in the Vatican, it's here, it's there. But not all of those legends have never been proven to exist. And probably it was just destroyed by the Romans because they thought that the Jews it was over with the Jews, and that it was melted down for the gold, for whatever it was, and that would be sufficient. But we see that the menorah is alive and well, and we discuss it thousands of years later, and it's the leading point in this week's Parsha of Baloscha. Rabbi Hananya